My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes life pushes us to chase endlessly, chase a job, chase stability, chase a name, chase validation. We scroll through listings, polish our resumes, and pray that someone sees our worth, but perhaps we've been looking in the wrong place all along. Maybe the provider we seek is not sitting behind a desk or signing our paycheck. Maybe the one who promised risk, our sustenance, has already written it before we even began to search. Islam reminds us that our provision does not come from people. It comes from Allah, our Razak, the one who provides without limits. The job, the title, the income, these are only means, not the source. The moment we truly understand this, something within us shifts. We stop begging from creation and start trusting the Creator. We realize we don't need to look for a job anymore to feel secure. We need to look for purpose, sincerity, and connection with Allah, and the rest will follow. Sometimes we live as if the world owes us stability and comfort, as if provision comes only from the careful arrangements we make and the opportunities we find. From a young age, we are told to study hard, to graduate, to seek a stable career, to climb the ladder, to ensure a steady income. And in that pursuit, we measure our worth by the responses we get from the world. Yet, despite all this effort, there is a subtle emptiness, a quiet anxiety that lingers behind the surface of accomplishment. We find ourselves wondering, will I ever be secure? Will I ever have enough? Will I ever feel seen? In Islam, we are taught that true provision, rizq, is not determined by the whims of the world or the doors we knock on, but by Allah, the most generous, the sustainer of all. And yet, to internalize this teaching requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands a surrender of the heart, a conscious shift from relying on creation to trusting the Creator. When we place our trust solely in a job, we are unknowingly entrusting our hearts to something fragile, something external, something contingent. Companies fold, industries shift, economies falter, and suddenly what we thought was secure crumbles. This is not to say that effort is meaningless or that responsibility should be abandoned. Rather, it is a reminder that the value of our efforts is not in the job itself, but in the sincerity, excellence, and intention we pour into our work. When we recognize that Allah is the ultimate provider, we stop measuring our value by positions, salaries, or titles. We begin to see that every opportunity, every skill, every door we walk through is already written for us, and every barrier we encounter is a chance to turn our hearts back to Him, to reflect on our dependence on what is eternal rather than temporary. There is a unique peace in releasing the desperate grasping that the world encourages. We are trained to worry about every letter in a job application, every interview question, every rejection letter, every comparison to peers. We feel the pressure to appear competent, impressive, and worthy in the eyes of others. But if we pause and reflect on the Islamic principle that Allah's decree is perfect and His provision is limitless, we see how unnecessary this constant striving becomes. The Prophet taught us that one's sustenance will find them even if they are beneath a tree, even if they are sleeping, even if they are not actively chasing it. This is not an excuse to be passive. Rather, it is an invitation to align our effort with trust, to act with sincerity while letting go of anxiety over outcomes. When a person truly internalizes this trust, their relationship with work transforms. Work is no longer a tool for self-validation or a measure of self-worth. It becomes an act of service, a channel for growth, a way to contribute to the world with integrity and compassion. And when the heart is free from fear and desperation, creativity and excellence flow naturally. Doors open in ways we could not imagine. When we were trapped in the narrow mindset of scarcity, we discover opportunities that were invisible when we were blind with anxiety. Opportunities that align not only with our skills, but with our purpose, our passions, and our values. The act of surrendering to Allah's provision does not remove effort from our lives. It sanctifies it. It turns mundane tasks into spiritual practice, transforms challenges into lessons, and invites a sense of ease into the most stressful moments. One of the most challenging aspects of this mindset is overcoming societal pressure. Society measures success by the jobs we hold, the houses we live in, the cars we drive, and the social circles we maintain. And while these external markers have their place, they are transient and often shallow. Islam teaches us that what truly matters is what resides in the heart, the intention behind every action, and the impact we leave on those around us. By letting go of the need to prove ourselves to others through our employment status, we allow ourselves to cultivate inner richness, patience, gratitude, and contentment. This does not mean stagnation. It means moving forward with purpose, guided by principle rather than pressure. The process of letting go of worldly attachment is gradual. It begins with reflection, noticing the anxiety that surfaces when we think about bills, rent, and responsibilities. It continues with a conscious redirection toward Allah, reminding ourselves that He is aware of every need and that He provides in ways beyond our imagination. And it deepens when we cultivate gratitude for the provision we already have, the health, the skills, the knowledge, the relationships, and the small blessings that are often overlooked in our rush to achieve. Gratitude becomes a shield against fear, a reminder that even if the future is uncertain, the present is full of sufficiency. In this space of trust and gratitude, the desperation to find a job loses its grip and the focus shifts toward meaningful action. Moreover, the Islamic perspective invites us to rethink what work really means. Work is not confined to an office, a title, or a paycheck. Every act done with sincerity, whether raising a family, caring for the sick, serving a community, creating art, teaching, or sharing knowledge, can be a form of work that holds immense value in the sight of Allah. By expanding our definition of work, we liberate ourselves from the narrow confines of employment and open doors to pathways we may never have considered. We begin to see that every effort, when aligned with intention and trust in Allah, carries a reward that is far greater than the mere accumulation of worldly wealth. This realization shifts our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith, and from anxiety to serenity. It is also important to recognize the role of patience in this journey. Waiting for provision in a way that trusts Allah requires the heart to be steadfast, to resist panic, and to maintain hope even when circumstances seem bleak. Patience is not passive. It is active, grounded in conscious faith. It involves taking steps within our means, preparing ourselves with skill and knowledge in seeking opportunities, but without the heavy weight of desperation. Patience coupled with trust transforms anxiety into strength, uncertainty into opportunity, and hardship into a medium for spiritual growth. It teaches us that the timeline of our life is not ours to control, yet every moment is an invitation to practice reliance on the one who controls all. Furthermore, embracing this perspective encourages generosity and empathy. When we are no longer consumed by fear for our own provision, we can extend help to others, share knowledge, time, or resources, and act as instruments of ease in the lives of those around us. The act of giving, even when we feel we have little, reinforces the truth that sustenance is not diminished by sharing. It is multiplied by faith. In Islam, giving from what we have, trusting that Allah will replenish it, becomes an act of worship, a demonstration of reliance on divine provision, and a recognition that we are not the ultimate owners of anything. Everything is a trust, and everything belongs to Him. Finally, understanding that we do not need to look for a job anymore is ultimately about liberation. Liberation from fear, from comparison, from societal pressure, from the illusion that our worth is tied to a position, a title, or a salary. It is the freedom to pursue work that aligns with our values, to serve with sincerity, to live with gratitude, and to trust without hesitation that our provision is already written. This liberation is not instantaneous. It is cultivated through reflection, prayer, patience, gratitude, and conscious alignment with faith. It is a daily practice of surrendering the illusions of control and embracing the certainty of divine care. It teaches us that while the world may offer opportunities, security, and success, ultimate sustenance and peace come only from reliance on Allah, the most merciful, the all-knowing, the sustainer of hearts and lives alike. So often we allow our lives to be measured by the worldly scales of success, by titles, salaries, or positions that others deem important. From an early age, society conditions us to seek recognition, to pursue status, and to equate our self-worth with our accomplishments in the external world. We are told explicitly or implicitly that we must climb the ladder, outperform our peers, and secure a place that signifies achievement in the eyes of others. And while effort and ambition are not inherently wrong, the danger lies in mistaking these markers for the essence of our lives, mistaking the means for the end, and mistaking societal approval for divine blessing. Islam invites us to reframe this understanding, to seek work and growth not as a measure of worth, but as a means of purpose, service, and spiritual fulfillment. When we align our actions with purpose, the way we live transforms. Purpose becomes the compass that guides our decisions, the lens through which we evaluate opportunities, and the light that illuminates the path even when worldly markers seem unclear. Instead of asking, what job will bring me respect? We begin to ask, what can I do that will bring benefit to others? What can I do that will honor the gifts Allah has given me? This shift moves us from the fleeting and fragile validation of human eyes to the enduring and transformative satisfaction of acting with meaning and integrity. In essence, it allows us to work for something greater than ourselves. Islamic teachings emphasize the value of intention, niyyah, in every action. What may appear mundane or ordinary in the eyes of society, a task that lacks prestige, a role that does not carry status, can, when performed with sincere intention, become an act of worship, a means of spiritual elevation, and a source of profound fulfillment. This understanding reframes how we view personal growth and service. Growth is not merely measured by a promotion, a pay raise, or a certificate. It is measured by the cultivation of character, the refinement of skills, the deepening of empathy, and the consistent striving to align our actions with virtue. Service is not constrained by a title or position. It is the active choice to use one's resources, time, and energy to uplift others, to alleviate hardship, and to contribute to the well-being of our communities. When we focus on purpose rather than prestige, our relationship with work changes fundamentally. We become less anxious about competition and comparison because our standards are no longer dictated by others. We no longer measure ourselves against the achievements of colleagues or peers because our success is defined internally by how well we serve, how sincerely we act, and how consciously we grow. This internal focus fosters patience, gratitude, and resilience because it shifts the locus of control from the unpredictable, fluctuating world to a stable, faith-driven understanding that our efforts have value in the sight of Allah, regardless of worldly recognition. In this context, personal growth takes on a new meaning. It is not simply about climbing the corporate ladder or acquiring accolades. It is about developing a heart that is resilient, compassionate, and attuned to purpose. Growth involves reflecting on one's actions, acknowledging weaknesses, and striving to improve oneself in alignment with both spiritual and practical wisdom. It involves cultivating patience when doors seem closed, gratitude when resources are scarce, humility when success arrives, and discernment when opportunities present themselves. Personal growth, when pursued with intention, is a lifelong journey that transcends the limitations of titles and paychecks. Service, likewise, becomes a transformative practice. True service is not transactional. It is not performed solely for recognition or reward from humans. Instead, it is performed with sincerity, understanding that our actions have the potential to impact the world in ways we may never see. Helping others, offering guidance, sharing knowledge, and easing the burdens of those around us are acts that create ripples far beyond immediate outcomes. Islam teaches that even small acts, when done with sincerity and mindfulness, carry immense weight in the sight of Allah. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of patience, a teaching of wisdom. All of these are forms of service that elevate our purpose and nourish our souls. Another crucial element of focusing on purpose and service is the understanding that worldly work and spiritual growth are not mutually exclusive. Often people perceive faith and career as separate spheres, one spiritual and the other practical. Yet when approached mindfully, career and work can be vehicles for both personal growth and divine satisfaction. By choosing roles, projects, and responsibilities that resonate with our values, that allow us to serve others ethically, and that challenge us to grow in skills and character, we transform our work into an extension of our spiritual practice. Our professional lives become an arena where intention, diligence, and sincerity converge, and where every task, regardless of scale, carries meaning. One of the most challenging aspects of this mindset is resisting the pressure of societal comparison. Human beings are naturally inclined to measure themselves against others, to assess worth through the lens of achievement, and to equate success with visibility. This comparison creates anxiety, discontent, and a sense of inadequacy. By redirecting focus from titles and salaries to purpose and service, we break free from the exhausting cycle of competition. We learn to recognize that our journey is unique, that our calling is distinct, and that fulfillment comes not from external applause, but from aligning our efforts with divine wisdom. Furthermore, focusing on purpose and service encourages continuous reflection. It asks us to consider questions that go beyond immediate gain. Why am I doing this? Who benefits from my actions? How does this contribute to the good of others and the growth of my soul? These questions transform mundane labor into mindful engagement, repetitive tasks into opportunities for character building, and ordinary roles into channels for impact. In this way, work ceases to be a means of survival alone. It becomes a medium for contribution, learning, and spiritual enrichment. Islamic teachings also emphasize the concept of barakah, the divine blessing that multiplies the value and impact of our efforts. When work is approached with sincerity, service, and purpose, it attracts barakah, an element beyond human calculation that increases benefit, influence, and fulfillment. Barakah manifests not necessarily in material gain alone, but in the quality of outcomes, the joy experienced in the process, the resilience developed through challenges, and the positive influence on others. This understanding shifts our focus from what the world measures, salary, title, prestige, to what truly matters. The lasting impact of our actions, the strength of our character, and the alignment of our lives with higher principles. Moreover, focusing on purpose over position cultivates humility and gratitude. When we recognize that our worth is not defined by worldly validation, we approach life with a sense of gratitude for the opportunities we are given and humility in our achievements. Humility allows us to learn from mistakes, to seek guidance, and to collaborate with others, fostering an environment where growth and service thrive. Gratitude transforms challenges into lessons, setbacks into redirections, and routine tasks into opportunities to appreciate what we have been entrusted with. In addition, prioritizing purpose and service nurtures resilience. Life is unpredictable. Doors close unexpectedly, opportunities are missed, and circumstances shift. When our foundation is built on external validation, these changes can be devastating. But when our focus is on purpose and service, setbacks become part of the journey rather than defining moments of failure. We learn to navigate uncertainty with patience and faith, understanding that each experience, even hardship, contributes to growth, character, and eventual fulfillment. Resilience, then, becomes a natural outcome of aligning effort with intention and trusting in divine wisdom. Education and skill development also gain new meaning within this framework. Rather than pursuing skills solely for employability or market value, we cultivate knowledge and abilities that enrich our character, serve our communities, and align with our purpose. Learning becomes a sacred act, a means of empowerment, and a tool to better serve and contribute. The motivation shifts from external rewards to internal fulfillment, from superficial achievement to meaningful impact. Finally, embracing purpose, service, and growth over mere titles and salaries encourages a holistic view of life. Life is more than work. It is a tapestry of relationships, contributions, learning, and spiritual reflection. By integrating intention and faith into every action, we cultivate balance, reduce anxiety, and experience a deep sense of fulfillment. The work we do becomes a reflection of our values. The impact we leave behind becomes a testament to our character, and our lives transform into living expressions of purpose, service, and growth in alignment with divine wisdom. So often our hearts are restless because we place our trust in the temporary, fragile systems of the world. We tie our sense of safety, our peace, and our confidence to the structures around us: jobs, promotions, contracts, titles, and benefits. We tell ourselves that if we secure this job, this promotion, this opportunity, we will finally feel stable, worthy, and secure. And yet, the more we tie our hearts to the mutable, the unpredictable, the impermanent, the more we experience anxiety, fear, and dissatisfaction. Islam teaches us that true security is not found in human arrangements or societal guarantees. It is found in reliance upon Allah, Al-Wakil, the trustee, the one who manages all affairs with perfect wisdom. This reliance is not passive. It is a conscious, active, and continuous turning of the heart toward the one who never fails, the one whose provision cannot be hindered, delayed, or taken away except by his decree. From an early age, we are taught to plan meticulously, to follow the expected steps, to accumulate credentials, and to climb the ladder set before us. And while diligence and preparation are virtues, the human tendency to over-rely on these measures often leads to a fragile foundation. We become anxious about outcomes, fearful of rejection, and distrustful of the natural flow of life. Yet the Quran reminds us repeatedly that sustenance is in Allah's hands, and there is no creature on earth, but that upon Allah is its provision. Surah Hud 6. This is not merely reassurance. It is a profound invitation to realign our reliance, to acknowledge the futility of clinging desperately to worldly guarantees, and to shift our trust toward the eternal provider. True security, then, emerges from an understanding of divine wisdom and the cultivation of faith. It is a realization that every aspect of life, every opportunity, every challenge, every barrier is encompassed within Allah's perfect knowledge and plan. When we anchor our hearts in this truth, we experience freedom from the fear that accompanies worldly dependence. A person who relies on Allah understands that employment, contracts, and human institutions are temporary tools, not ultimate sources of stability. These tools can aid us, but they cannot replace the peace that comes from knowing that the one who controls the universe is caring for us directly. This reliance is cultivated through awareness, prayer, and reflection. We remind ourselves daily that outcomes are not entirely in our hands, that our effort is necessary but not sufficient, and that success, provision, and protection ultimately rest with Allah. In times of uncertainty, when contracts are delayed, when opportunities do not materialize, when the world seems precarious, our reliance becomes both our anchor and our refuge. It is a source of strength that does not waver because it is not dependent on human approval, economic cycles, or the judgment of others. Patience is an integral part of this process. To rely fully on Allah requires patience because life will inevitably present moments of waiting, disappointment, and trial. These moments are opportunities to deepen trust and surrender, to test the sincerity of our reliance, and to cultivate resilience. Patience in this context is not passive waiting. It is an active engagement of faith, an acknowledgement that the timing and means of provision are governed by divine wisdom. It allows us to navigate uncertainty without despair, to act with sincerity without desperation, and to continue our efforts without attachment to outcomes. This perspective also transforms our understanding of risk and effort. Many people fear taking steps because they perceive potential failure as a threat to security. Yet when security is